Blossom Season 2, Episode 8, Faces in the Dark. Blossom arrived in the U.S. to meet Luca and find Irina, while Camellia remains hidden in the village with Ivana. In the Santoro mansion, Marco continues his life, unaware that Camellia is still alive. Meanwhile, Montenegro, raised without knowing Marco as his father, is becoming more deeply involved in the Santoro circle. Blossom is about to step into a world where enemies don't always wear masks, and where the past she never knew may be the key to saving her family. Arrival in the U.S. Blossom steps off the plane, the harsh lights of the airport a stark contrast to the cold shadows of her past. Her backpack is slung over one shoulder, her gaze locked forward, determined but alert. It's been years since her kidnapping, and returning to the U.S. is a strange mixture of nostalgia and danger. Luca waits in a car just outside. When their eyes meet, his face hardens, and he crosses his arms in disbelief. "I never thought I'd see you here again," he says, his voice tinged with an emotion Blossom can't quite place. Blossom climbs into the car, shutting the door behind her with a quiet finality. "Me neither," she responds. "But here we are." Luca starts the car. The engines hum a low soundtrack to the silence that fills the space between them. "Do you have a plan?" he asks, glancing over at her. Blossom nods once. "First, we need to get into the senator's house without raising suspicion. Second, we have to figure out how to rescue Irina. And third," Luca interrupts, his voice cold, "find out how deep my father's corruption goes." Blossom meets his gaze. "Are you ready for what you might find?" Luca's grip tightens on the steering wheel. But that doesn't change anything. Meanwhile, at the Santoro mansion, Montenegro walks through the grand hall of the Santoro mansion. The opulence around him a stark reminder that he doesn't belong. The high ceilings and dark marble floors seem to close in on him, making him feel like an outsider in a world he can't understand. From above, Marco watches, leaning casually on the balcony. He observes Montenegro's every step. "You've been spending more time here lately," a faint smile tugging at his lips. Montenegro stops, meeting his gaze. "My mother works here." Marco descends slowly, his hands tucked into his pockets. "No problem. Just curious." Montenegro senses a shift in the air, a subtle tension he can't place. Marco claps him on the shoulder with a knowing smile. "Maybe one day you'll realize how much we have in common." Montenegro frowns, unsettled by the words, though he can't put his finger on why. Marco's smile lingers as he walks away, leaving Montenegro alone with his thoughts. In a safe place, the pending conversation. Luca takes Blossom to a discreet apartment, the kind of place no one would notice. Inside, Blossom sets down her backpack, her eyes immediately locking onto Luca. "Tell me what you know about the senator," she demands, her voice sharp and focused. Luca leans against a desk, pulling out a file, his movements quick and deliberate. "Ethan Calloway, he's been in politics for over 20 years, but started associating with shady businessmen 5 years ago. There are no concrete ties, but records show trips to South America and offshore accounts." Blossom flips through the papers quickly, each page more damning than the last. "And Irina is with him." Luca nods grimly. "I don't know how she ended up there, but if someone sold her, it was through my father's trafficking network." Blossom closes her eyes briefly, the weight of her daughter's fate pressing heavily on her chest. "We need to keep an eye on the house, see who's coming and going." Luca nods, his face hardening. "I've already got someone watching it." Blossom glances up, suspicious. "Who?" Luca hesitates, then speaks slowly. "A guy who's worked on some jobs for me. His name's Montenegro." Blossom's heart skips a beat. The name hits her like a thunderclap. "Who is he?" she asks, her voice cold. Luca shrugs. "I don't know much. He's different. It's like he's searching for something. Like he doesn't know who he really is." Blossom's expression hardens, a sense of dread settling over her. "I want to meet him." Luca looks at her, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "I'll make that happen." In the next episode, Blossom and Luca begin their surveillance of the senator's house, but they quickly realize they're not the only ones watching. Meanwhile, Montenegro enters the scene, unaware of his connection to Blossom. In the village, Camellia receives an unexpected visitor who could threaten the secret she's been guarding for so long. The game is growing even more dangerous, and the stakes have never been higher. Don't miss Blossom Season 2, Episode 9, Shadows in Motion.